Story 1: The Welfare Check. When I was a police officer, welfare checks were one of those calls that usually ended up being nothing. Most of the time, it was a family member overreacting, an elderly person asleep, or someone who simply forgot to answer their phone. That's why this call didn't stand out at first. I thought, just another call that'll be nothing. Dispatch said a neighbor requested a welfare check because they hadn't seen the homeowner in almost a week. The mail was piling up. Lights had been on every night at the house. They said something just felt off, and they wanted to make sure everything was alright. I got to the house around 8 p.m. Small house, quiet street, nothing out of the ordinary. There was a nice sedan in the driveway. TV was on inside playing something I couldn't make out. The kitchen light was on. I thought that maybe this would be a waste of time. Honestly, it looked like somebody was home. I got out of my car and walked up the driveway into the house. I knocked on the door. No answer from anyone. I knocked again. Still got nothing from anyone. Dispatch tried calling the homeowner. We could hear a phone ringing inside the home. Nobody picked up though. I was now beginning to think maybe something had happened. At that point, I requested another unit. When backup arrived, we made entry into the house. The second we stepped inside the home, something felt wrong. Not like dangerous or threatening, just wrong. The TV was playing like everything was normal. A lamp was on. There were dishes in the sink. Someone had been cooking something. There was chopped onions sitting on the counter that still looked fresh. We agreed to go through the entire house and search through everything. We cleared the entire house. Nobody was home. No one upstairs in any of the rooms, not in the closets, not in the garage, nothing, not a soul. But the place didn't feel abandoned. The bedroom looked used. The blankets were messy, like someone just used them. A phone charger was plugged in. A coffee mug on the nightstand that smelled fresh with coffee. The bathroom sink was still damp. My partner joked that maybe the guy was hiding from us, but nobody was there in the room. Then, I noticed something unusual. The coffee maker. There was fresh coffee in there. I checked the temperature of the coffee. It was very warm. Couldn't have been sitting there for days. At most, maybe an hour or two. That's when I asked dispatch to confirm the homeowner's info. A few minutes later, dispatch came back. The homeowner had been verified. He wasn't missing. He was staying with his family out of state. He had left 6 days earlier. Dispatch told me it was confirmed by multiple people. He hadn't returned back to the house. I remember standing in that kitchen looking at the coffee because somebody had definitely been there. But according to everything we had, nobody should have been there. We searched the entire house again. Nothing at all. No signs of any forced entry. No open windows. No basement. No attic access. Nothing. No one should be here. The homeowner came back the next day. He said immediately that things had been moved. Just small things. Chair positions in the dining room. Certain kitchen items not being in the right spot. The TV volume had been changed. But nothing was missing. No valuables taken. He changed the locks on all the doors. Installed cameras around the house. Never called us again. A few months later, I mentioned the story to another officer. He looked at me and said, "Same street?" Apparently they had another welfare check nearby. Same situation. Occupied house. Fresh food. Nobody was there. I still to this day can't explain what happened, and I don't think I ever will be able to. Story 2: The Wrong Address. The story has stuck with me for years. I feel the way to deal with this story is to share it with the rest of you. This happened on a night shift around 1 a.m. Dispatch sent me and another officer to a domestic disturbance. The caller reported screaming. Sounded urgent. People were yelling really loud. Things possibly being thrown around. Possibly even violent. Nothing unusual from a typical domestic dispute. We drove over expecting a standard argument. When we arrived at the house, nothing. No loud noise. No lights in the home. No cars in the driveway. The house looked completely dark. Like nobody was even living here. I remember checking the address twice because it felt like we went to the wrong house. We got out of our cruiser and walked up to the home. We knocked on the door. No answer from anyone. We knocked again. We almost felt like leaving, but eventually an older man opened the door. He looked like he was half asleep, and he was completely confused. Asked what was going on and why we were here. We explained the situation to him. He immediately said, "I live alone here. There is no one else here." He seemed completely normal, calm. No signs of injuries or a struggle. No damaged property in the home. Still, procedure is procedure. We asked if we could make sure everything was okay in the home. He agreed and let us in. The house was neat, quiet, normal. But while walking through the home, little things started catching my eye and bothering me. 2 coffee cups in the kitchen, extra shoes in the hallway, 2 jackets hanging up in the hallway closet, a second toothbrush. Nothing dramatic or completely concerning, just signs that another person lived there. I asked him directly again about anyone else in the home. He smiled and said, "No, just me." My partner gave me a look like it was time to go. We finished and walked outside and back to our cruiser. Case closed. Nothing looked suspicious, except dispatch called again. The same address, another 911 call, placed while we were inside the home. Reported screaming on the line. I asked dispatch if they were sure this was the home. Same phone number, same house location. They replayed part of the call. You could hear heavy breathing, then someone whispering, "Don't leave." I turned around immediately and began to walk back to the house. House looked dark again. We went back and knocked on the door again. The same man answered. Still calm, still confused about our presence. This time we checked every room carefully, double-checking everything, but found nothing. Then my partner noticed something strange. On the living room table, there was a landline phone. The caller ID showed outgoing call, 1:18 a.m. The exact time we'd been inside the home. Nobody had touched it. We asked the resident. He looked at the phone for a second, then quietly said, "That's impossible." Then added, "I unplugged that years ago." We both decided that was it for the night and left the house. We never got another call from the house. I still to this day cannot explain what happened in that house. Story 3. The Interview Room. This story happened to me while I was working nights at a police station. I spent the last few years working overnight at a station because I was a total night owl and couldn't handle waking up early. The night shifts were weird. Everything gets really quiet. All the phones stop ringing. You catch up on paperwork. Usually boring and uneventful. One night around 3 a.m., I was finishing up reports. I looked up at the monitor wall. One of the interview rooms was still active. The camera showed somebody sitting at the table, head down, not moving at all. I assumed another officer forgot to log something or someone into the system, so I checked the schedule for the station. No interviews, no suspects, nothing at all. I radioed around asking about the interview room. Nobody claimed the room. I walked over to the room, opened the door, but it was empty. Chair was pushed in. The room was dark. I shrugged and went back to my post. 10 minutes later, I looked at the monitor wall and same thing. Person was sitting there. Same posture, head lowered. I actually laughed because I thought somebody was messing with me. I went back again, but it was still empty. This time I stayed there for a minute. Nobody came in. I walked back to my post, looked at the monitor. The figure was gone. Okay, that's gotta be the end of it. Then I had an idea. I pulled the recording of that interview room, rewound an hour of the footage. The figure was there. Rewound 2 hours. Still there. Rewound even earlier. Same thing. Hours of footage. Nobody was entering. Nobody was leaving. Just sitting in the chair with the same head forward posture. I zoomed in on the footage. The video quality wasn't great. Couldn't see many details. Then, something happened that caught my attention. The figure finally moved, slowly lifted its head up. I immediately stood up, walked fast to the room. I opened the door, expecting for something to happen. Once again, it was just empty. But the chair now was still turning, like somebody had just stood up. I didn't mention it to anyone. Finished my shift as per usual. Next morning, I showed another officer the footage. He watched the footage, but saw nothing. The room was empty the entire night. No figure at all. No movement of the chairs. Then he paused, looked closer into the camera footage. One frame. Just one. There I was, standing in the doorway, and behind me, someone was sitting in a chair, head lowered, looking directly at the camera in the interview room. I stopped checking that monitor after that. I figured whatever was in there did not want to be disturbed.
Hi, Mr. Horror Story here. I hope you enjoy the scary stories today. There will be stories every other day or daily, so keep those notifications on. Please like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Feedback is always welcome and encouraged. List any ideas for videos in the comment section. I appreciate you guys for always taking time out of your day to listen to my stories. Thank you for listening, and remember to stay spooky out there.